friends, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Angela, and I hope you will consider hitting that subscribe button to become part of my DIY family. Today's video is the monthly Chic for Cheap challenge put on by Christi Creates, and her co-host this month is Crafting with Class. I'll link both of their channels along with the playlist in the description box below so you can get tons of decor dupe inspiration for your own home. Also, stay tuned to the end so you can see my DIY fail. Let's get started. For this first project, I'm taking some scrap plywood that I had left over from my living room transformation, along with some nails that I got from Walmart. I grabbed 2 packs, but only ended up using less than 1, and I'm gonna make some string art. So I just cut out like a feather shape from computer paper, but it wasn't quite big enough, so I just flipped it upside down, how you can see here, to get the long shape that I wanted. And then I just nailed in all of my nails using the paper as my guide for the outline. Then I'm going to take this embroidery floss I got from Amazon. I will link it below. I'm using black and then a color called Golden Coffee. And I'm just going to make a loop, tie it around this first nail that I want to use as my starting point. And then I'm going to just like make a figure 8 shape kind of. So you'll see here what I'm doing, but I'm just wrapping it around each nail and then like crossing over, wrapping around again. So I did that about 3 times on each nail section so that it would make the embroidery floss look a little bit thicker. Now the key here, this is the first time I've made string art, so it was a learning process for me, but you want to make sure you're like pulling that string tight and also keeping your finger on the previous section that you just did, because so often that string would just slide right off of the previous nail and unravel everything I had just done. So you definitely want to make sure you're holding it down in place while you go. I was wondering, whenever you see the inspiration piece, the black feather parts are like a solid black and more filled in. So I'm wondering, I'd like your guys' opinion in the comments if I should have filled in the whole black feather. I do end up giving it just like the like stem feather details inside, but I don't fill it all the way through. And I think it would have turned out a little bit better. It would have made that like brown gold coffee color pop against the black a lot more if I had filled it in. So I might go back and change that, but we'll see. I do still love the way it turned out. Once I get to the end, I'm just gonna loop it again around that nail and tie another knot. So I do another double knot and then trim off the ends. I do end up hot gluing, just putting like the tiniest little dab of hot glue on the ends just to make sure you can't see where I cut these strings off. And then I realized I think I should have put the nails a little closer together, especially if I was going to want to fill in this whole piece. But to get that like center, I don't know what you want to call those, like the center branch parts, I don't know. I ended up going back in and adding some more nails up the center so that I could then make that like V shape, and you'll see that here in a second. So here I am creating those V's, so that's why I put the nails in the center as well, so I would have a point to string those on and create more of a shape. But I do still think I should have filled in the black all the way, and it would have looked really cool, but we'll see if I end up changing that or not. And again, I'm just using that like figure 8 pattern going back and forth around my nails. Another thing I want to say, whenever you're doing this, you don't want to pull too much of your string off of the spool because it just gets like tangled up and twisted and knotted. You can kind of see off to the side there. If you pull too much off at a time, it just creates a huge knot. So now I'm going to go in with the golden coffee color, and we're going to do the same thing. I did 4 of my feathers in black, and I am doing 3 of them in gold. I didn't want it to be too symmetrical or have like an even number of feathers. I don't know. I just like things like this to be in an odd number. I'm just doing the same thing here, twisting around the outside, and you can see I created kind of like some triangle patterns in the black feathers, and I do something a little bit different here with the gold ones. When I did the gold, I did learn my lesson to not pull so much thread, embroidery floss, I don't know, so many different things you can call it. I didn't pull off too much at a time. I just unraveled it as I went. And then again, I'm going to add that center part so we can create the design in the gold feathers. And I was a lot more, I thought about where I needed to place those nails a lot better when I went in with the gold and wanted to create just that V shape. I didn't add any of the little triangles in here. I wanted them both to be different. When I created this part, wow, I'm having so much trouble with this string. It just keeps unraveling on me. But anyways, when I'm going up to the next section, so I'm doing my like sides that go off to the right and the left, and then I come back to the center, and then I go up to the next nail on top of it, and then go out to the right and the left again to create that V shape. Then I come back to the center, go to the next one above it, and that's how I got that pattern to work. The last thing I wanted to do was just take this like metallic bronze color marker and color in all of the nail heads. I had wanted to use bronze and black nails to do this project, but I couldn't find them. I only could find silver, and it was just really standing out to me against like the yarn and the wood, so I didn't like that. But my inspiration piece cost only about $30. It was from Home Goods. It wasn't too bad, but mine only cost about $10 for the nails and for the embroidery floss, and I really do love the way this turned out. I just think it would have popped even more with the black filled in. So let me know what you guys think. For this next one, I'm taking some leftover canvas parts that I have. I had ripped these off of some frames whenever I made a black window out of, what are those called? Canvas frames. I'll link that video for you guys up above and in the description box in case you haven't seen it. But I did keep the canvas parts because I knew I could use them for something else. And I'm just cutting them down to the size I want them to be. The only part I drew on here, I'm going to make some like botanical eucalyptus art. And this is the only part I drew on with my pencil, was just the initial stem, so I knew where I wanted to start at. And everything else I just did freehand. I've never done something like this before. I have a lot of firsts in this video, but I really do love the way that they turned out. But the only color I am using is Moss by Waverly, and then I take some black and white to create like light and shadows, or highlights and shadows in it. But I start out just creating the stem, and I'm using the darker moss color with the black added to it. And then I also go in with a little bit of black while the paint is still wet, and just add it in there ever so slightly to give some dimension. My big head's gonna keep getting in the way here. Once I have my stem all created, then I add on like little branches coming off that are going to then hold my eucalyptus leaves. And I'm using really tiny detail brushes to do all of this. It was really fun and relaxing. If you don't think that you're very good at painting, I didn't think so either, and I really love the way this turned out. I wanted it to have a very like handmade look to it. And when I was looking for inspiration images, all I could really find were like prints, like reproduction, mass-produced prints, and not like true watercolor that someone had created. But I really thought these looked handmade anyways, like even the print ones, so I thought it would be pretty easy to recreate. Next, I'm just taking a slightly bigger detail brush and I'm just creating like circles, ovals. I don't want them to be perfect because eucalyptus leaves are not perfect. They're kind of circular, kind of ovalish. And then I just filled that in. This is using just the regular moss, no black or white added to it yet. So once I have my shape and I fill that in, then I go back in with some white paint, again, while my color is still wet, and then I can just kind of blend them together. So you can see that first one that I did, how it has a little bit of white highlight at the top. So that's what I do. And I want to do this while it's wet so everything blends together seamlessly. And this was very relaxing to do. I made a couple of these. I wanted to make 3. I didn't get to the third one. I only did 2, but I just like turned on the TV and went to town painting. It was a lot of fun. And I just made some like bigger ones, some smaller ones. I wanted some to like overlap with the stem so that they looked like they were more to the front, and it just looks really cute. I love the way this looks. I also did keep wetting my brush just to make sure I was getting it to blend nicely. And I would go back and forth with that white and then my regular moss color just to make them, again, blend. I'm not going to make you watch me paint this entire thing. Don't worry. So once I had all of my leaves on there, I just went back in with my really fine detail brush and added those stems back into the center of the leaves so they didn't look like they were just floating there. And you can't really tell while it's wet, but if you look at those bottom 2 leaves, you can see that when it dries, it darkens up a bit, and you can tell that the leaves are hanging on that stem and not just on top of it and sitting there floating. The last step that I'm going to do for this is I took some more scrap wood from my garage. We always have these tiny little pieces in the garage for my husband when he does his flags, and I'm going to stain them with Minwax Early American. This is going to be my frame for the art. Then I'm just going to take some wood glue once the stain had dried, and I glue my pieces together. I also hold them down with a clamp while the glue dries. And I just put a piece of wax paper underneath so the glue didn't stick to my desk surface. Here I'm taking the clamp, pushing it together nice and tight until it dries, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Last, I'm just taking some CA glue. This is the super glue that has an accelerator so it dries really quickly, and I just glue my canvas down. I don't think I show this part, but I trim off the excess of the canvas that's hanging off the frame a little bit. I just took my X-Acto knife and it trimmed that right off. But that's it for this one. Mine was free because I had all of this material on hand, and the ones I could find on Etsy ranged between like $20 if it was just a print reproduction, and all the way up to like $100 if it was a set of that someone actually handmade. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. I think it looks so great, and I plan on putting this in my bathroom. That will be the next room makeover that I'm going to do on my channel. It's going to take a few months because it is a full gut job, but stay tuned for that. All right, so this last DIY was a complete fail, but I wanted to keep it in here because I wanted to show you what I did wrong and I know how I could have fixed it. So I'm taking these various size dowel rods that come in a pack from Walmart. They come in a variety pack of like thicker, thinner, there's like square and circle ones. I only use the circle ones, but in varying thicknesses, and I'm spray painting them with a hammered black spray paint because I want this to have a metal look. This is where I went wrong. I should have glued everything together first before spray painting it because of course the glue didn't stick whatsoever to the paint. But next I'm taking all of my dried dowel rods and I'm placing out all of my vertical pieces first. So I got this inspiration from Wayfair. You'll see that here in a couple minutes, but it was like a metal art piece. It was just called metal home decor or metal wall decor on the website, but it was just like very modern and minimal looking, and it was just horizontal and vertical lines, varying thicknesses of metal. So here you can see I have all my vertical ones laid out there, and then I took my horizontal pieces and I started gluing them. So I realized I'm using hot glue, which obviously is not going to give a strong hold to begin with. But I also did go back in when I realized this wasn't working, and I used my CA glue because that's a super glue that is really strong with the accelerator. Again, that didn't work. It literally just crumbled as soon as I picked it up and went to hang it on my wall. So I did pick it up once to take outside. I wanted to give it one more last coat of spray paint, make sure everything was nice and covered. And then when I picked it up from the garage to bring inside, that's when it completely fell apart. So I do think this would have turned out great though had I glued it all together before spray painting it. I also would have saved myself a lot of spray paint. Painting those dowels individually was it was a lot of work and it took a lot of paint. So here was the inspiration piece. It was $100. Mine would have cost $10 had it turned out, but I'm gonna show you here how it just fell apart on me. So I tried to put it all back together. It just wasn't working. I do think I'm going to try to redo this because I wanted to put it in my bedroom above my headboard. So I think I'm going to redo it and try to glue everything together first before I paint anything. But I just wanted to show you that not all DIYs turn out the way we want them to. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed these relaxing projects and my unfortunate fail. But hey, we can only learn and grow from our mistakes. See you next time.